All right. Well, hello, Troy Olson. How are
Good
you, my friend?
morning.
Good morning.
I'm good. I'm good.
Well, awesome. I get to see you every day at the market center. And so it's kind of fun. We get to sit over a Zoom call and have a conversation that we can let the whole world in on. So I'm just excited to interview you on some of your success. You and your team are absolutely crushing it. You had an amazing year last year, over 32 million in sales volume, over 730,000 in GCI, 79 units. You could have made it at like a solid 80. I feel like
I,
y'all could have
I,
squeezed out one more.
I should have bought a house for Christmas
I
cash.
mean, really, really, let's not let that happen again. And I know you guys are already way outpacing in a market shift what you did last year. So just excited to chat with you. Before we turned this recording on, we were talking about how we've known each other for a long time. Back in my start in real estate in my home warranty days, and your start in real estate back in early 2000s. So talk to us a little bit. You came from a corporate job. You were dual career, though, for a long time, one of the most successful dual career agents that I have ever known. Let's talk about why you got into real estate and a little bit about the start. Go back to the
Yeah,
beginning.
so thank you for the opportunity to do this with you. So I actually started my real estate career in January of 2004 in Phoenix. I was living in Scottsdale and I had a job in corporate America. I've been was in the telecommunication space. I worked for Nextel, the walkie-talkie phone that we all remember those commercials that later got acquired by Sprint. And I was at a point in my life where I'm ready to buy my first home to live in. I was tired of renting, and I remember going to a Safeway grocery store and getting groceries on a Sunday and picking up a real estate magazine and started looking through it. And I found a townhome in Scottsdale that looked appealing. And again, this is when people still looked at magazines and pictures and all that stuff. And I had called the realtor, the listing agent, to say like, hey, I want to see this property, not knowing that, typically, the buyer has a buyer's agent and the seller has a listing agent. And he was like 45 minutes late to our appointment. And when we got there and we're looking at the property, I didn't feel like he knew really anything about the property. And again, I know nothing about real estate other than I think I'm ready to buy. So I thought, well, this guy is a clown. Like I can go do this for a living. So I went and got a real estate license because I was going to buy myself a house and just get paid. So my first deal in Arizona, I remember it, was $257,990 was the price that I paid for my very first townhome in
Wow.
Scottsdale way back in 2004, and that is how my journey in real estate started.
That is really cool. So you moved to Dallas, got
Yeah,
licensed in
so
Texas.
in
So why did you move here? We're so glad you did, but tell us about that and tell us just about kind of start because you were still working a full-time job.
Yeah, so I had worked for this telecommunication company that said I can live anywhere in my region. I had a couple of buddies that lived in Scottsdale that were from Dallas, and we came over here in May, and they took me to the Byron Nelson golf tournament, and that's when the Byron Nelson was a whole lot different than the Byron Nelson is now. And I got caught up on the scene, and I'm like, wow, Dallas is. And I watched the TV show Dallas, growing up with my parents, and I'm like, this is cool. And one day I'm going to live
Cats and
there.
horses and the
Yeah,
whole
and
thing.
and
Yeah.
yeah, it's just, the big D. So I actually did not tell my boss that I moved to Dallas. I went to real estate school while he was in Hawaii on a vacation. And I got my real estate license, and I started, thinking, okay, I'm going to live in Dallas, but I'm going to keep my Arizona real estate license, and I'm going to fly back and forth, and I'm going to sell real estate in two states. Well, that is a little bit more difficult than you think. So I joined a brokerage firm in the fall of 2005 here in North Dallas. And then, yes, I was a dual career agent from 2004 all the way up to January of 2016. I had two laptops, two phones. I covered a 5-state territory and just found a way to be, I guess I would say, successful and productive is probably a better word, at both careers. And I got hung up on the salary and the benefits and the commission of my real job. And then as the real estate commissions start coming in, it just, I wanted, more, and more. And that's how it happened.
Okay, so speaking of more and more, I would say you're probably one of the most driven people that I know. Meaning you really don't require anyone to push you, anyone to motivate you. You are you're incredibly intense personality, committed to your goals and just driven. Where does that come from?
So, those of you that know me know I grew up on a large dairy farm in Wisconsin. Both of my parents were born into dairy farm families. So when I say I was raised by two workaholics and I was raised by two perfectionists, that's the absolute truth. And I know that my bold coach Dusty Oglesby would cringe when we talk about fear or faith. And I think that growing up on the farm, we went through some struggles. We had a barn fire in 1984 that wiped us out. We had a drought in 1988 that wiped out our crop. And we had a frost in 1993 that wiped our crops out. So I saw my parents struggle financially due to some things that we couldn't control. And I always said, I'm never going to let that happen to me. So I think that I just have operated out of fear, not having all of my eggs in one basket. And then going back to 2001, I saw corporate America cut 10% of the workforce. And I had some really good friends that lost their jobs at corporate America in 2001. And when you're in your first year of corporate America, you don't understand cutbacks and all that stuff. And again, there was another example of I'm never going to let that happen to me. So I've never put all my eggs in one basket, still to this day in 2023.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because real estate can feel like a risky business because of, again, you have no cushy salary, you have no benefits, right? Success is completely up to you, whether you show up every single day and make it happen, right? And then you, of course, have market shifts that can make things a bit unpredictable. And I will say, you are certainly not one that is dismayed by market shifts. You're quite steady. So talk about, is that because you have had so much challenge where things have been, right? You still have the ability to control within a market shift, or kind of how do you navigate that aspect of uncertainty in real estate?
Yeah, I mean, if you do the math on what, again, we're blessed to be in North Texas and to be in a real estate market that hasn't, really dealt with a lot of the things that the East Coast or maybe the West Coast, have dealt with. So for me, it's we have the ability to go make an unlimited amount of money. And I've talked about this before. There's nothing wrong with being a doctor. There's nothing wrong with being a lawyer. They make an incredible amount of money, but they also spend an incredible amount of money on education and then really paying their dues until it really, really pays off. Where else can you go spend $1,000 or $1,500 and make an unlimited amount of money? This is the only industry that you can do that. And I took the work ethic that I was, branded into me from the day that I was, 6 years old into this. And I was listening to an interview with Brett Tanner last night of KW Wealth, and he talked about the same thing. He grew up on a hog farm in Colorado, and he took the work ethic that his parents gave him and put it into what he's doing out there in Phoenix and now with KW Wealth. So again, it's kind of that roadmap of just go hammer it every day, all day, and look what it can do for you.
Well, and I think you're such a great example of not having a victim mentality, right? Is that ultimately at the end of the day, you're going to reap the results. If it's up to be, it's going to be me, right? And you're going to,
nobody's going to feel sorry.
Make it happen. Yeah. And it sounds like, in your parents' case, they could do everything right. And yet weather comes.
You can't control when the barn's going to get hit with an electrical fire or a drought or a frost. Again, I don't have severe weather-related issues that can happen. As a real estate agent, we might be pending on a deal that gets hit with a hailstorm and we have to, adjust. But I don't have, I don't have the same hurdles that they had.
Okay, hang on. I'm in my office and my light automatically turns off when the sensor. So hang on. I got to. Voila. Let there be light. Okay. So you made the move to Keller Williams in 2019, which we are so glad you did. And it was really a big move for you because so much of your business was relocation and referral business that you were getting from that current brokerage. So making the move to Keller Williams meant walking away from something that felt secure, that you had built a business upon, and making a move to build something really different and bigger. How did you come to the place that you were willing to take that risk? And then we'll chat a little bit about how you did it, because it's really been remarkable.
Yeah. So again, kind of like I was hanging on to the salary of my real job. And again, when I was the dual career coach, the productivity coach for the region, a lot of people would ask me, why in the world were you a dual career agent for 12 years? And it was fear. I was hanging on to the salary. And then you start seeing what dual income can produce. And like I said, I wanted more and more. So part of it, Teresa, was fear. I was hanging on to that corporate relocation train that my previous broker, was one of 4 brokers in DFW that had that relationship. And I remember sitting at Breadwinners with Tommy, and he literally drew this out with math. And again, I had to get out and tunnel vision. I had tunnel vision that this is the only road to take. This is the only opportunity. And I remember going in and asking for a very slight adjustment to my compensation plan, which I had never asked for. And this is after 13 years. And you would have thought that I was trying to burn the building down. So naturally there, I started going, okay, you know what? Maybe I do need to at least open up my eyes and start having the discussion, which, you and I started the discussion, and I got invited to a regional event in Louisville at the Hilton, where I had the privilege to listen to Dave Jenks. And I met Smokey, and again, I felt like you paraded me into the front table, and Bob Lucida was there, and I knew, Christy Cannon, and I knew some of and Kevin, and I knew some of the other big, KW players that were there. And I started going, wow, like, yes, I was a monster fish in a pond, but I'm nobody in this room, and I want to be part of this crowd. And after 14 years, just like athletes go through this, Teresa, it's time for a different jersey. And the only way to make money where I was to sell more houses. And over here with you, there's in my opinion, there's a much better comp plan, but there was an opportunity to generate revenue from profit share. There are joint ventures, there are market center investment opportunities, there are coaching opportunities, within MAPS. There's just so many other ways to look at that. We weren't really set up for teams where I was, and to the point where they had to create a comp plan. And obviously Keller Williams really started the team concept and had that set up. So the more market center events and the more regional events. And then I was again honored to be your guest at Family Reunion in New Orleans. And again, when you walk into a room, and I don't know exactly the number, I think there were about 15,000 of us down there. It's kind of like, yeah, this is a different animal, and Gary is dialed in. So like I said, it was a pretty natural progression that we did. And to be honest with you, we were on the Highland Homes trip. Mm-hmm. And it's the first time that I had ever met Tommy. And months and months later, after I had moved here, I said, hey, we met on the Highland Home trip in Wyoming. Why weren't we having these discussions up there? And he said, it wasn't the platform. We were there to celebrate our success with Highland Homes. It wasn't to recruit. The level of respect went to a whole nother stratosphere with you and Tommy by him saying that. And then obviously Mega Camp in 2019 down in Austin, we went to kind of a private dinner, and on the way out, I'll never forget, we were discussing like, hey, are we going to get an Uber and go downtown? I mean, everybody was just gassed. Tommy didn't have a voice left. And we sat down, and we basically said, I brought up, cap management. I didn't know what that was. And I said, you can do that. And he said, yeah, let me draw it out. And I said, let's finish this right now. And we did. Yep.
Basically created a very favorable economic solution for you. to make the move to KW. Yeah, absolutely. Well, there was a fun process bringing you on board. And there are just times, right, that, people move brokerages or join companies for all kinds of reasons. But ultimately, when there is a value connection, that's what creates the greatest partnerships, right? And I think that we have a value connection that makes us just such a great fit. So you made the move, walked away from relocation business that was more surefire, although we say that, and yet relocation accounts can go away. The COVID certainly changed that, but you had to come in with a new game plan and strategy to grow, and you have. So how did you focus? What did you do?
I mean, that forced me to get uncomfortable. And I remember we were still, in the old building across the parking lot, and I was in this small little dark office, and I got there, and I don't want to say like I questioned my decision, but for the first time in 14 years, I was nobody. And it was, we're going to reload. We're going to reload. I had depleted my team. In 2017, the team that I was leading, we did 57 million, and we did 135 transactions. And now 2018 started to wind down, a little bit. And then I make the move. And then, 6 months after I get here, COVID hits. There's no corporate reload business anyway, because everybody's working from home. And I remember going to my first Airbnb. I had never been to an Airbnb. I'd always been, a hotel person. And I go to an Airbnb in East Texas over Easter. And obviously that was right after COVID was at its peak. And are you essential? Are you not essential? And just getting out a notebook and a piece of paper and drawing out, okay, nobody's going to feel sorry for me. Nobody's going to come and get me. Nobody's going to pay these bills. Just bear down and figure out what you have to do to rebuild and reload. And again, it's hard to believe that. Wow, as we look at the calendar, wasn't COVID like March 13th? We're like 3 years and 3 days after it. And again, it's still out there, but it's not out there to the magnitude that it was in 22, 21, 20. And again, it's business as usual, and then some from here on.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I think that's just such a, you really kind of prepped yourself to not be knocked off your feet by COVID, because you made the decision, right? And really it's a decision to take control of your own business, right? And not to be dependent on something that can actually, like a relocation, something that can be taken from you, but learn how to generate that business, which is more profitable at the end of the day, because you're split. Your ROI on that is so much more positive, and you're in the driver's seat, right?
Yeah. And again, I never had a bookkeeper, and I never had a coach, and I never had a lot of the tools and the resources. So when you say, we're a technology company, we're an education company, again, you can't have tunnel vision about this is the only way that I know. Growing up, my father always said, if you want it done right, do it yourself. We're close in age, maybe your father, that generation said that, and that's all fine and dandy, Dad. But guess what? You can't grow if you're doing everything yourself. So I have learned to, again, start back over with the team with comp plans that are more in line. My business is as profitable, as it's ever been. And now I've been able to expand into other business ventures to generate, revenue as well. All that comes from the education that Keller Williams has taught me.
Well, and I want to give you kudos and a shout out just to your team, because you have some incredible talent on your team. That certainly makes you look good, and you make them look good. But just really great job attracting them into your business and retaining. And you got some good folks. So
yeah, I've said that,
some good kickball players too, I will say. I felt like for the kickball tournament, y'all really posted well.
Well, coming from somebody that's as competitive as me, if you said, "Hey, Troy, I'll race you down the hall," like, you better be in tennis shoes, because I'm not in the business to let people win at anything. So yeah,
I've never challenged anyone to a running race. So I'm the slowest person you've ever met.
But no, I've got a great team. Again, I say that we've got, 3 absolute racehorses, and obviously looking to add more. I operate at a very, very high pace. Some people would say that it's an unhealthy pace, but it's the only way that I know, and I'm just going to continue to run at that pace.
Yep. I would like to go on record that I do challenge Troy on a regular basis of what is he doing to build that personal life, but that's neither here nor there, not something we'll get on video. Okay. So, last question that I want to get into. So your GCI in a market shift in which units are down, is already at 62% of the GCI that you did last year. And, just so you know, it's like March 16th. So holy cow, congratulations. That's amazing. So what is the number one thing your team is focusing on right now to get those kind of results in 2020?
Yeah. So again, a life coach would frown upon this. A bold coach would frown upon this. Again, I know that there's a high level of operating out of fear because of my past. I know that Stacy operates out of fear based on the responsibilities that she has. I have a lot of people that count on me on a daily basis, and it's my job to lead them. And unfortunately, I'm not somebody who, takes days off or takes vacation. I was built and I was groomed for this from the day I was born because of my parents. I can honestly prove it to you that I was on the phone Christmas Day. I was on Zoom Christmas Eve. Now, in my defense, that was a $2.4 million transaction, most expensive house that I've ever sold. The deal has closed, so that naturally has helped my GCI number. But nobody wants to make less money this year than last year. Okay. What do they say in sports? You're only as good as the last game you played. So again, I have a goal to increase my GCI, decrease our sales volume every single year. And I think too many people wake up on January 1st, Teresa, and go, okay, what's the business plan? What are we going to do? My business plan is figured out in October. In November and December are the dress rehearsal. There's a reason that all of you get together at a retreat in October or November, and you plan for this upcoming year. Otherwise, it's too late. So again, not everybody's going to want to do my way or do it the way that I do. But again, we've got some big goals on the team. Annika obviously is now into production. She had a closing yesterday. She's got listings, she's got buyers. So continue to have leverage in our business. That's how we're going to increase our GCI, our sales volume, and our unit count.
All in. Your year started October.
Yeah.
100%. Yep. Haven't let the market define your success is amazing. And then I know you're drilling down deep on your most important relationships with your database, with clients, with your team. Just talk about that just briefly.
Yeah. So at Family Reunion, Gary talked about who are the top 15 people in your, and again, he's talking about, in your life. So obviously, we're not going to separate personal from professional on this interview, but think about who are the top 15 people in your life that are going to get you to where you want to get. Again, it could be, your team leader. It could be, your spouse. It could be, I have a MAPS coach, and I'm on with Mike every Tuesday at 2:00. And when I got into MAPS coaching, I said, I don't want a MAPS coach who's going to talk me out of, flipping houses and buying rental properties and developing land. Like, I am not a standalone traditional buyer, seller, realtor. I do a whole lot more than that. And I was matched up with somebody who, again, has a bigger vision. So again, it's who are these 15 people? What can you provide to them, and what can they provide to you in return to get you where you want to go this year?
I think that is great advice. I would encourage anybody listening to this interview to really reflect on who those top 15 relationships are. And one of the things Gary Keller said during Family Reunion was every single day you earn the right to continue in that relationship, right? And so really being intentional and purposeful about developing, about growing, about investing back in those, because that's how we get the greatest ROI out of the amazing. Ultimately, at the end of the day, it's always about the who, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's what are you doing this for? Again, the honor and privilege to be on your ALC, and we were together yesterday. And why do you do it? You do it to give back. You do it to mentor and educate. Again, when you are a leader, you have to look, walk, talk, and act like a leader. And again, that's our responsibility here at Keller Williams.
Love that. Well, Troy, thank you for just sharing your wisdom, sharing your heart with us today. You're a true partner. I so value you and appreciate you. And we'll call this a wrap.
Thank you for the opportunity. I'll see you soon.
Okay. Thanks, Troy.